All right. Greetings and welcome to the regular season finale of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. It is Selection Sunday. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Dorn. We made it. You are a little under the weather now, but we were like 6 episodes into this, and I was like, oh man, I wonder when one of us is going to get ill and we'll have to skip an episode. But knock on wood. I mean, I never jinxed it by saying it, but we survived. We did a whole freaking 60 episodes. Graham, what are your thoughts on the bracket as things currently stand?
I think we have what seems to be an interesting bracket. And the reason why I say that is there was a lot of movement this week from top teams, really surprising us with great tournament performances. Obviously, Florida going down was surprising, but Arkansas wins the SEC tournament. Vanderbilt wins in dominating fashion on the way to the SEC tournament title. Purdue looked great after looking like a 4 seed for much of the last month of the season. All of a sudden, they turn it up. So I'm very curious to see what the committee is going to do with those sorts of teams. Do they move St. John's up to a 4 seed for adding a Big East tournament title to their resume? I really don't know. For all the talk about the contingency brackets, this might be the year they factor it in more. I'm going to stick with what I was believing to be the case, which is most of the work has already been done. Don't overreact too much to the last couple of days of the year. But we'll see. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And it's because I've done it after years and years of seeing what the committee has done. So I can live with that if I miss a bunch of stuff for that reason.
It is finally official after 4,700 fouls. The VCU automatic bid is sealed. We don't have to worry about the 3 bid A10 anymore. We're going to go relatively just quick through my seed list, and Graham's just going to jump in and interject where he has disagreements on any of it. And hopefully we'll get out of here in 15, 20 minutes and I can get back to all the crazy work I need to do the rest of the day. But right off the bat, Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida. Any objection to the seeding of the top four overall?
I think all four of those are going to be there. I would be shocked if Florida's not the last 1 seed. I think they've done enough to earn it.
But you're good with Arizona at 3 overall? That was kind of
Oh
my
yeah, I think
question.
I think Arizona at 3 is the right call, and it's not because anything Arizona's done. I just think when you have Duke and Michigan having played each other, the committee is going to be really apt to say, okay, whoever wins that's one, whoever loses is two. It's a 1-2 game. Don't punish the loser, and I think that's what their mentality is going to be there.
All right. Two line Houston, Connecticut, Michigan State, Iowa State. I've gone back and forth on who should be the Big Ten team in there. I thought about Illinois, I thought about Purdue, but you kind of swayed me with your point that Michigan State swept the head to heads there and Illinois beat Purdue. So that should probably be the order, even though Purdue has the best metrics. So if you convince me of that, I assume you agree that Michigan State is a 2 seed.
Yeah, I think so. I would say Iowa State for me is seventh overall, Michigan State eighth. I think it's going to be an 8, 9, 10, Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue in order of who won those games.
Think I do have Iowa State at 7 and Michigan State at 8, and I scrubbed that because of the how far apart they were at the reveal, and I just think the committee will be like, let's at least care about what we had 3 weeks ago. Three line Illinois, Purdue, Gonzaga, and Vanderbilt. I know that's the one you disagree with, and it's going to look bad for the committee now that Vanderbilt lost to Arkansas in the SEC championship. If Vanderbilt's a 3 and Arkansas is a 5, but I think that what they did in the last week, ending the regular season with a win at Tennessee, beating Tennessee and Florida on a neutral, that was enough for me to get them ahead of Nebraska at that last 3 line, factoring in Nebraska's non-conference schedule as part of that in my decision there. But I think you still have Nebraska as a 3, correct?
Yeah, I think when you look at Nebraska, they did play pretty well when they played the top teams on their schedule. Obviously, they got that victory against 2 seed Michigan State. They won at 3 seed Illinois. And I think when you look at Nebraska, one thing that actually goes to their favor, in my opinion, is they played Michigan so close in Ann Arbor. They didn't win that, but they looked the part. I think when you look at that road win over Illinois, that will be what keeps Nebraska on the 3 line.
All right. 4 line, where are we at here? 13 overall. Nebraska, obviously you have Vanderbilt there instead. Virginia, Kansas, and Alabama. Both Alabama and Kansas had some pretty ugly showings in their conference tournament. One a ugly looking loss, one an ugly resume loss, but I couldn't quite get Arkansas or St. John's above either of them. Again, that's going to look bad for the committee if Arkansas is still there at a 5 and if St. John's is there at a 5. Or do you think maybe they'll? I know you already kind of mentioned the St. John's dilemma, but do you think they'll potentially scrub those teams up, or are they just going to maybe kind of give, because usually the 15 and 16 overall seeds just like there's nothing we can do with you, you're stuck here, and you're almost better off being 17 and 18 overall when all is said and done.
Yeah, I think what the committee will ultimately look at is Alabama went up to Madison Square Garden, beat St. John's. They beat Arkansas in an epic game in Tuscaloosa, but I believe Arkansas only having 3 wins against that quad 1A is going to be held against Arkansas, and St. John's also has a quad 3 loss. Alabama has 2 quad 2 losses, so if they want to move anybody, I think it's easy to move Alabama down, especially if they decide just swap Arkansas and Alabama, because now you've got the SEC tournament champion. We could just put them exactly where their SEC compatriot was going to be, but I believe it's going to be Kansas 15, Alabama 16.
I believe we are in maybe not the exact order, but I believe we are in agreement on the next possibly 4 seed lines. There goes my alarm going off. 5 line Kansas, or excuse me, that's not right. 5 line Arkansas, St. John's, Texas Tech, and Wisconsin. 6 line North Carolina, Tennessee, BYU, Miami. I know you've been stressing over the Miami Louisville thing, but we're in agreement there. I think the Hurricanes' resume is just cleaner, and they haven't been soundly beaten by top teams nearly as many times as the Cardinals have. That's kind of a tiebreaker for me, even though if you're using the net, you got to pull Miami from here and put them above Louisville up here. It's a little disconcerting, but I see from your background you still kept Miami as a 6 seed.
Yeah, I think if there's one area of the bracket that I'm going to kick myself for getting wrong, it's going to be Miami as a 6 and Louisville as a 7. But my head says the committee is going to care about much bigger things than they care about who's a 6 and who's a 7 by the time that we get to Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And at that point, I think they're already going to say, hey, Miami just beat these guys a few days ago on a neutral court. They have at least a 500 record against quad 1, whereas Louisville's really struggled overall in quad 1. Also, Miami has 2 wins against the field on the road if you count SMU as a field win. So I think that could help Miami as well.
I think thanks to VCU's win, we can feel a little bit better about SMU being a field win, but we'll see. 7 seeds, Louisville, Kentucky, Clemson, UCLA. 8 seeds, Utah State, St. Mary's, Ohio State, and Georgia. I mean, I can see above your head you agree on those 8 seeds.
Well, the only
Where we
difference
at?
is I had Ohio State as an 8
Oh
seed
yeah,
at
you dropped Ohio State.
32nd
Yep.
overall, and I dropped them just to make room for Utah State. I just really like the wins TCU got against Florida neutral, Wisconsin neutral. They even played Michigan really tight. I just think when you look at what TCU's done, they won at Texas Tech. Those wins just jump off the page for me more than Ohio State, so I decided to keep TCU as an 8 and Ohio State as a 9.
I think for me, both Villanova and TCU have become the teams we've talked about for a while. It's like I don't know what to do with it. We're going to throw them as a 9, so they are my 33 and 34 overall. But I kind of like TCU as an 8. I mean, as a Duke guy, I would rather not face TCU in the second round, but to each their own. So the 9 line, you have Ohio State, where I have TCU, and then Villanova, Iowa, and you scrubbed down St. Louis. You now have UCF on the 9 line. I mean, you're a Big 12 guy. I get it. They got some big wins. And St. Louis stubbed its toe. I wanted to scrub them down, but I also didn't want to overreact. I think it's another one of those, man, it's this 5 loss team. I feel like we should have them as a 9 seed type of situations.
Yeah, well, I had St. Louis entering the week. I actually had them as my final 9 seed. So it wasn't really a big overreaction for me. It was just saying,
Yeah.
okay, well, you were pretty much there anyway. So I'm just going to barely move you down 2 spots. It's not a big punishment. It's just I was already pretty much undecided on who I wanted there. So may as well make a slight adjustment.
Yeah, I'm not saying you egregiously overreacted. I also have St. Louis at 36, and I thought about it, but that's one spot I decided not to make a change. 10 seeds, Missouri. I have UCF, you have St. Louis. Santa Clara for me, and Texas A&M. curious, do you have NC State as a 10? Is that the one that
Yeah,
I'm missing?
I put
Okay.
NC State as a 10 seed. I just think the fact that they've actually won a couple games against tournament teams on the road is something you don't see very often in that area. And if we're being honest, NC State's a bit of a mercurial team. When they're on, they're probably a team that I wouldn't want to play. So I think that factors into it for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, like 3 weeks ago, they felt like a 6 seed. They just have stubbed their toe like none other down the stretch. And then the 11 seeds. Where am I at on mine? I lost it. Uh, I should know these by heart as much as I've looked at them. NC State, Miami, Ohio, VCU, who is no longer in the first four range. They will be a straight 11 seed at this point. And then I have SMU and Auburn. You still have Texas. I know you can see Auburn. I can absolutely see Texas. Who's that other team from outside? If we're looking for the wow, I can't believe the committee went that way. I think for me, it's Stanford.
Yeah, I think if we're saying a team that I can't believe the committee went that way, we'll probably have some team we're not talking about because Stanford is that team that I can see that I think would surprise people. The other one that I actually feel like has a pretty good chance is Oklahoma. Oklahoma still
Hmm.
has a pretty nice resume. I don't think they're dead by any means, but ultimately I decided Texas should get that spot in the field just because they have such good wins in comparison to the other teams around the bubble. And what did the committee do with Texas last year? They had such good wins against the other teams in the bubble, so they got them into the field. I think Texas is going to, for the second straight year, do good enough against Quad One that all the ugly warts on the profile still don't prevent them from a tournament bid.
I know we've talked in the past, like a couple of years, I guess last year with the Big East, where it's like, oh come on, we gave them three bids last year. We got to find a way to help them out this year, type of thing. I think I'm leaning the opposite way with Texas, where it's like, oh, you just barely scraped by and got in last year, and you kind of proved you didn't belong. I don't know that we want you scraping by again this year. I don't know. I just can't get my head around Texas being in. And then I saw CBS Sports has them in as a clear 10, which is, I don't know, makes me feel better about not having them in. But do you want to talk about any of the 12 through 16 seeds or just gloss over them as the committee probably will?
Yeah, I mean, we could just gloss over them. I think the one that I find most interesting is the final 15 seed. That's when it's probably worth taking a second to chat about.
Do it because I was struggling on that. I had Queens as my bottom 14, and then I scrubbed them down to a 15. I think I'm guessing Idaho is who you're talking about as the final 15 because I have them in a play-in game.
I've actually moved a lot. I had Idaho as a 16 seed earlier in the week, and then as I really started to drill down, I just got to the idea that I don't think Idaho's going to be a 16 because they're too good. I think that's ultimately what the committee is going to come to the conclusion on is Idaho's too good to be a 16 seed and move them up to a 15. And I think Queens, Siena, and UMBC are very difficult to choose who should be on that 15 line because two of them would have to be on a 16 in that scenario. And I think Siena has the name recognition. UMBC comes from a conference that traditionally is not very good compared to others. That could hurt them. I also think the MAC, the one with the double A MAC, they tend to do pretty well in the tournament in comparison to some of these other teams. So I wonder if that could help Siena's case to maybe get up to the 15. But I just think Queens, when you look overall and really just compare those resumes next to each other, I like Queens' resume. I do. And I think they're going to end up getting a 15 seed.
We're actually pretty different on the 16 line here. I have Idaho in a play-in game, and then I have Furman on the 16 line. I have Siena, Queens, and UMBC all as 15 seeds. So, boy, this is where we should get freebie points, and this is where we finally disagree for once. Uh-oh.
Well, I think the one thing I will say is Idaho is a really tricky seed in that way. Like I said, I had them on the 16 line because their wob is terrible. I mean, they have an
Hmm.
atrocious wob. And I was like, why would I move them up with a wob like that? That's too dangerous. And then ultimately I came to the conclusion that I really just genuinely don't think the committee thinks a 16 seed of that caliber should be playing a 1 seed. I just think they're going to move Idaho up for that reason alone. They just don't think a 1 seed should have to play somebody like that.
It's fair enough. I think I'm gonna go look at my 16 seeds again because I can't stand missing that 15-16 cut line. That drives me nuts. And I probably miss one 2 out of every 3 years. There's no excuse for it, but oh well. Anything else, or are we good to go?
Just thank you everybody for tuning in all year on all of these podcasts. Really appreciate it. And now let's get ready for the real thing.
Yeah, we'll probably do one more post mortem at some point during the week. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. We'll see how Graham's feeling and how I'm sleeping. But until next time, everyone, take care, enjoy the hoops, and good luck with those brackets.